Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me today where we'll be reviewing a very different watch today, one that has been sent in by a microband called Vario. Now you will see in the top left corner a paid promotion. That's because this watch was sent in for the review, and those of you guys that do follow this channel, you'll know that I have reviewed another piece from Vario, which was the Art Deco inspired watch, with that green dial and gold hands. I was really taken back by that watch, and the fact that it featured a high beat, pretty old school Miyota movement, which something I hadn't had my hands on yet, so that was really good. So I've got this one in now, and this is the 1918 trench watch. Now, looking at the previous watch from Vario, and of course this one in hand, it is pretty clear that Vario do like, these period watches and vintage looking watches as well, which is a good thing. It's good to have a microband with a theme, call it an ethos, or, a certain design aesthetic that they do. A lot of the AliExpress watch brands, they do lack a bit of soul because, they do, there's imitation watches, right, with a branded dial. So it's good to see a watch brand sticking to some kind of theme, and so consumers are familiar with the type of style and what to expect from them. So before we go on to the stats and specs, we're just going to touch upon why this watch is significant, also the inspiration for this watch that Vario have done. So as I mentioned, this is called the 1918 trench watch, and if you don't know, 1918 is around the time of World War One. Now, prior to that, wristwatches weren't really a thing for men. It was mostly pocket watches. Now, due to World War One, there was a bit of a demand from the military to have a watch that was robust enough. It was easily accessible. And the problem with pocket watches was they'd get broken, damaged. They were quite difficult to open, with the gloves. And, in that situation, you don't really want to be messing around with a pocket watch. So, although World War One was pretty significant for a lot of changes in the global landscape, it was also important for watches. Due to that, it catalyzed the evolution of the wristwatch for men. And prior to that, the wristwatches that did exist were for women, and they were known as wristlets. So, when these trench watches were made, they were made a bit bigger, and you did see men starting to adopt them, and before long you had a lot of the top level generals that would be wearing them, and also the infantrymen. So there is a significant piece of history attached to this style of watch. For the guys, collectors that are in this niche, I think this watch would appeal to you quite a lot. And with this piece, this is why you see the certain design. You still got a very round case, and you've also got, usually in a pocket watch, you'll have an onion style crown at the top, which you could press to release the top cap, but you've got the onion style crown here just past the 4 o'clock position. So you've got the same sort of design aesthetics, and the details are very much present. In fact, if you just turn it around, you can see a pocket watch style looking wristwatch. Even though this is a period watch, the specifications are very much up to date and well away from that 1918 period. So you've got a double dome sapphire crystal with undercoated clear AR coating. We've also got a 316L stainless steel case. The watch runs a Miyota 82S5 hacking and winding 21 joule movement with a small seconds subdial. You also have something which I think is really great on the watch. It features an enamel dial. Now, you usually get enamel dials in pretty expensive watches. So the fact that you can have an enamel dial in this style of watch, I think it's a really nice touch that Vario have done. Now let's look at dimensions. So the case diameter comes in just under 37 millimeters, case thickness of 11.3, and a lug to lug just under 45 millimeters. Now, I've been wearing this watch on this bund strap, and I will say it's not my cup of tea, to be honest. It adds too much size. Perhaps you need quite a big wrist to pull one of these off. As you saw just in the start of the video, it just sticks out too much, and they do also provide a single pass NATO strap. Now, one of the things with the type of lugs you have, it does limit your strap options by a great deal. You can only use one of these bund straps, or you can use a single pass cloth or leather NATO. And the lug width is 18 millimeters. But the good thing with Vario is they do have a lot of strap options, and a lot of strap options that really do suit all the different color options as well. So now it's time for the important information. So if you are interested in this watch, you can head over to the Vario website. I'll leave a link in the description. And these are available on pre-order. I think the Kickstarter has finished for these watches. But pre-orders go something like, if you have a 3-month wait for when you do pre-order them, you do have a great range of colors as well, and also different strap options. So the price for this watch, you're looking at £240 or $330. And you also have some improvements in the production models, because I'm not too sure if this is a prototype or pre-production model that has been sent over. And that is, you'll have a larger onion crown just for better usability. And I think they had an issue with the crown threads, so they will be oiling the crown threads. To be honest, in my hand, I've not had no issue with it, and I'll be wearing this across a few days. And you know what? It's a decent watch. And to be honest, I think I wore it on the wrong strap. On a single pass leather strap, it just looks very vintage, very classical watch. Definitely a head turner. So it's not something that you usually see as well. And if you've got some, old heads around you, they're definitely going to want to see what this watch is. Let's take a closer look at some of the dial features, some of the design that you get present on the watch. So as I mentioned, an enamel dial. Now what that means, you get a very solid color, and you get a dial that looks, in my opinion, very, very good quality dial. You've also got, Arabics applied around the dial with a black outline, and these are also illuminated. We'll check out a lume shot shortly. And you've got the Vario logo just under the 12. Now above the 6, as mentioned, you've got that small second sub dial, and you've got a printed minute track around the enamel dial. Now the good thing with the small second sub dial is this movement beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, which is about 6 tick a second beat rate. But with such a small dial, it gives you a much smoother sweep visually. So in fact, it looks like a higher beat than it actually is. Now you also got these gloss black cathedralized style of hands, which I think they go really well with the logo or the style of the numerals applied to the dial. And I think aesthetically, it is quite a pleasing watch to look at. The legibility is also there. The crown is just past 4, and you do have a signed crown, an onion shape style of crown, which is quite easily accessible. You can hear the movement winding, and there's the movement hacks. You can have a much better look at the case back. So you do have an exhibition case back. You've got some printed, you've got some engraved text on the back. 100-meter water resistance, made in Singapore, obviously. Sapphire crystal, automatic, and it's giving you a date there. So let's have a look. The Miyota movement. You do have some striping present, so some decoration that is present on the movement. Full gold. I was really impressed with the previous watch that I looked at, the Art Deco watch. As mentioned, it was a high beat Miyota movement, which I didn't know about, and it's a hand wind movement as well. And I think, for this watch, they should have also gone for a, Chinese made hand winding movement or a Japanese made hand winding movement, which I think they look a lot better because you got a, much bigger gears on the back. I think that would have been a lot nicer. The case finish is actually quite decent as well. You've got 2 different types of finish. You've got a polished bezel around the rim of the watch and the case sides and the case back. You've got circular brushing, very fine circular brushing, which definitely does suit the watch. So we're going to put this on the time grapher. We're going to see how this movement runs. So on the time grapher, it's actually running pretty well with just one major outliner. So the watch is running around plus 1 second a day, and that is face up position. Anybody who knows about accuracy, you do have to move the watch around on a few different positions to gauge its true accuracy. You've got a very healthy amplitude, and I think what is the outliner here is the beat error is quite high. It should be around closer to 0.1, 0.2. But yeah, so the movement in regards to if anybody thinks if they're reliable, I think Miyota movements are really reliable, and as you can see, the accuracy is 0 seconds face up. You can't complain. While we are talking about the movement, a point worth mentioning. Now we do know, and you'll find this information on the forums about Miyotas, they are considered quite loud. With this weight that spins. Now you can hear them and it's really quiet. However, every Miyota movement I've had the high beat ones, and I've had a couple of 8000 series. I think depending on the type of case, I think that really is a factor in how loud the movement is. Now, in this case, the movement is quite loud. You can actually hear it out and about on the wrist. You know, if you're sitting down in the living room, you actually can hear the rotor spinning. So just hear that. So this movement, yeah, again, it is quite loud movement, and you will catch yourself hearing it. So I don't know how people see that. I think there's a lot of negativity towards that, but you know, ultimately for a watch that's around £240, you know, it's like a rattle and squeak test when you look at cars. I don't think you should be really hearing the mechanisms spinning and whirring around. And that's why I think a mechanical hand winding movement would have been a much better choice for this watch. Now, while we are talking about undesirable features, you know, I accidentally came across a couple of QC issues. I will put up some pictures. As I zoomed in, I saw just a few quality defects, which I'll be absolutely honest, you can't see it to the naked eye. Now, on some of the pictures, as I show you the close-ups, you can see just some, you know, surface defects on the dial, a bit of micro bubbling, if that's what it is. You've got some, you know, dots that stick out on the dial, but to the naked eye, that's something that you cannot see at all. The second thing is, if you look really close, you can just about make it out, but again, on the close-ups, you see, you know, how the lume has been applied. It isn't the best on the numerals, so I think the one that does stick out is around the 8. You know, the lume is slightly going over the edges around the black, and also around the 11 and 12. So a couple of hour markers where it just isn't that crisp. Now, I don't know whether or not that's down to the enamel dial or whether that's just a bit of poor design on the dial. Now, bear in mind, this might not be the final version. I did have somebody comment that they have a production version and they cannot see any defects like that. So, but it is present on this watch. However, I do really like this grey dial color, and you know, the other dial colors they have, they are very nice. The sapphire crystal double dome does a really nice fit and finish. I think it gives the watch case such a nice look overall. Two major things for me: just better, you know, application of lume, just a bit, you know, a bit more attention to detail on the hour markers. The movement is a bit too loud. And the third one, which is a smaller issue, is obviously these curved wire lugs. While they are necessary for, you know, just to get that vintage appeal from the watch, it does really limit your strap choices. So you know what, you're limited to the bund straps as I showed you, and these single pass NATOs. But from what I hear, you know, single pass NATOs, they're not much of a problem. A lot of people do enjoy them. So here's the Vario 1918 trench watch on a 6.5-inch wrist, 37mm case with a 45mm lug to lug. You know, it's going to look fine. It does weigh very slim, and especially with the strap provided, you can see some Vario signage on the buckle. It is a nice quality suede style strap, and they've got, as mentioned, plenty of strap options, so you can customize this watch endlessly. And you know what? Overall, yes, it is a nice watch. It is something very different than what I'm used to, and you know, it's much better on this NATO. Even though the way it sits, the strap actually comes over the lugs, so you do have a slight gap on the sides, which again, you know, how's it going to look, how's it going to feel on the wrist? I think everybody is different. Now, I will say one of the things which is just slightly a bit of a letdown is the strength of the lume. The lume isn't as bright, and now when you do read the description on the website, it makes you think, or it leads you to the way that the lume is amazing and super strong. It actually isn't, and when you do look at the hour markers, it's slightly faded. You know, it doesn't really have thick solid layers applied, which I think would have been great. So this is again without the UV lamp. This is just from the LED lights in the room. So compared to most other watches, they are super bright. But having said that, you know, it is visible. It does do the job. You can see it, but it's just I've seen better for on a lot cheaper watches. So when we give it a UV blast, yes, glowing, super bright, very clear. And you know, that's what I would expect just from, you know, the normal LEDs in this room, and when you go outdoors, because coming in from outdoors, you won't get this level of brightness. This is just purely from the UV lamp. So overall, it's not bad. Could it be better? Yes, you know, as mentioned, the lume needs a bit more layers. As going back to the point description, you know, kind of alludes you to think that the lume is going to be a fantastic on this watch. You know, the build quality is really good, very impressive. Fit and finish is perfect. And as mentioned, just to reiterate the points, I think a hand winding movement would have been much better, or a less noisier movement. And the fact that I can see or well, the camera picked up the slight blemishes on the dial, slight defects, and just around the loom application. But all in all, for a very period correct, old school style of watch, I think it's different enough, and it is definitely a piece that you can add to your collection. The only thing which you have to decide now is whether or not £240 or $330 is the right price for this watch. As a standalone watch, bit of a niche watch, I think it's good. Would I buy one? No, it's not my style of watch, unfortunately. Definitely would have wear it on that bun strap. It's not my style of strap. But there are a few people that have bought this, and appreciating it in its own right. I think it is a very nice model, and it is done to a reasonably good level. So that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed that review, and I will see you on the next video.